Hey, this is Hannafin here. I recorded this video once, but but I ended up talking too much, and it ended up being over uh, 10 minutes, which won't work on YouTube. So I'm gonna time myself here and try to keep it short. Basically, this is what I've been working on instead of composing music for the last couple months. Um, it's a Java program. I've been programming. It's a Java program, and what it does is it's kind of experimental. It takes in melodies. Right now they're represented as text files. It takes in melodies, it analyzes them, and then it tries to mix them up to produce new melodies. Right now the input melodies are represented as text files, which I can show you on here. This is the Dragon of the Mist melody. So these are the notes represented as numbers, and then where those notes come in the melody are represented as numbers, and then you have the chords here, and then where the chords change are represented as numbers as well. So right now this is how all the melodies have to be inputted, which is a kind of a pain in the butt because I have to figure it out all by myself, instead of the computer doing it. So what I need to program, I don't know much about Java GUI interfaces myself, so I've been trying to learn as I go. I can do the logic behind it, but actually doing these kind of menus and stuff is a pain for someone as inexperienced as I am. But what I'd like to do is, instead of inputting text files, have like some sort of graphical interface where you can see, some kind of a representation of what the melody looks like, so you can input notes that way instead of having to do all the converting to numbers yourself and stuff. So that's something I need to work on next. So we have and right now I have you hit the load button here, and you load in the melodies you want to use into memory here, and then you select the ones you want to use, and you put them into this use box over here. What I'd like to do ultimately is to just have little check boxes by all of these melodies over here, so you don't have this use box over here or this use button right here. So basically I have some melodies that I wrote myself here. Dragon of the Mist melody. These trio melodies are from my trio for harp, flute, and oboe. And then I have some other general, like Baba Black Sheep, some folk melodies in here. I have Rubber Ducky from Sesame Street. That's a great tune. Everyone knows that. Annie, musical Annie, the Tomorrow song, Beethoven's Ode to Joy. Right now, my program, it only supports 8-bar melodies in 4/4 time. So some of these are 16-bar melodies in 2/4 time, which were easy to convert. And then Ode to Joy was a 16-bar melody in 4/4 time that I just scaled down, I guess you could say. The logic behind the program will actually work with any sort of melody at all, but right now I'm only using 4/4 melodies, 8-bar melodies in 4/4 time, just so that they'll mix easier, I guess. So we can try mixing some here. I'll just choose some random ones, use those, and then we hit create melody. This progress bar is quite a pain in the butt to figure out how to program. But I finally got it working. These numbers up here, it's kind of beyond the scope of this video to explain what exactly they do. But basically, the higher they are, the more that your end result melody, your final melody, will end up sounding like one of your input melodies. But it'll also make the progress go really slow anyway, so you don't want to set them too high just for that reason alone, really. If they're too low, then you'll end up with a melody that has very little variety. It'd be kind of confusing, and it would take too long to explain what exactly they do beyond that. But I found that 4 and 5, these numbers are kind of a good balance. So let's see, this is almost done here, and then I can show you what the output looks like. Ba-ding, it's done. Let's see, let's open up the output here. Basically, because a lot of these folk melodies only have the C and G chords in them, and I know one of my trio melodies does as well, then usually the output is only between the C and G chords. So this is an output Right now, the lowest note it supports is a 16th note. So each of these represent a 16th note. So you can see this is 2/16th notes, so this is an 8th note. This is an 8th note. That's a quarter note. It's 4/16th notes. And basically what I have to do now, since I don't have a graphical interface to represent the output melody, I have to use these numbers, stick them into Overture, and convert the melody that way, which is also kind of a pain. But you can see, so this first measure is in the C chord and has these 4 notes in them. And if I scroll down here, we can see what else there is. Another C chord in the next measure. We have a quarter note of the G7 chord in there, and then blah blah blah. And I think that's all we have is the C and the G7 chords in that 8-bar melody. So let's really quickly here see if we can create another melody using some different melodies to start off with. Maybe just those 3. We can change these numbers around. Let's make this number bigger, this number a little smaller, so it'll go a little faster there. And that's going to be a really boring melody because these melodies aren't very interesting in and of themselves. But we'll see what that comes up with. There's no limit right now as to how many melodies you can try mixing. In fact, for this last one, let's just try mixing all the melodies. Select all here, Control A. So now it analyzes all these melodies, finds their similarities and stuff, and tries to mix them up as best it can. In my experience so far, the final melodies that it comes up with aren't really good enough in and of themselves to use in a piece. But they have some interesting ideas in them, ideas that I would use a little. Some of the measures are pretty good, or pretty surprising actually, because it can come up with things that aren't in any of the previous melodies, but that sound pretty good. But overall, the melodies don't sound that great. But it's fun to play around with. It's fun to experiment around with. For me, at least. I would like to make some money off of it somehow in the future, if I can continue to develop it. So right now I don't have any plans to release the source code or even release this temporary application, this temporary GUI interface that I'm using right now. So right now my plans for the future are just to create a GUI interface to actually represent the notes instead of having to use all these text files. And so now in this video, here's what those output melodies sounded like.